All right. New intro. I love it. Very exciting. Welcome everybody. We're going to be steaming right along to the rest of the game and it's going to be awesome. Just like Asa is usually awesome, but today he's not very awesome.
I'm awesome.
All right. Let's go ahead and do a bit of group therapy, a chance to catch up with our characters. And this one in particular, there's going to need to be a lot of processing because when you look at the past, however many episodes, like from episode 10, I would say episode 10, episode 11, episode 12, episode 13. This one's 14. So much stuff has happened.
All of the episodes. Just
All
look at
of
our
the
episodes.
episodes.
Watch them
Just
all.
look at the episodes. A lot of stuff has happened, and I feel like our characters haven't had a lot of time to like process anything. So, yeah. Why don't y'all talk about it? Who wants to start?
Well, I'll start because I never start. Um,
Hmm.
and I'll be quick. Rue is awesome. And
Come on now.
robots can't contract colds, so. Um, and emotionally speaking, he's really just there, you know? Uh, right now, he is probably going through the process of munching on tree leaves, seeing if they have any taste, trying to figure out how he could apply them to Alan's cooking. He's collecting rocks, making little kind of like he's arranging them by size. You know, he's just finding things to do while everyone goes about living their lives of human emotions.
All
That's
right.
pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Who's next?
I will go next. Hillowfax. Oh, last episode was just a roller coaster for Hillowfax. Um, so, all of the last little while, since emerging from Finnegan's Fimporium of Doom, Hillowfax has felt an absence, an emptiness. He knows that something is amiss, but he's not fully aware of what it is that he's sacrificed. So he's been acting as though nothing is wrong, and his brain's just trying to cement over that hole. But as you might know, when you try like putting polyfiller over a hole and you've not like properly packed it in, it sags. There is a sign there that something's amiss, and that's been happening to Hillowfax. His dream communication with Leah is a sign to Hillowfax that he's perhaps just lost a little bit of memory, that something else has gone wrong, and maybe it's a romantic link with Leodan that he's somehow forgotten. Because there's nothing else it could be. It couldn't be that he's missing some other part of himself. That is the only logical conclusion. And so Hillowfax right now is trying to reconcile the fact that he can't remember any of that with the idea that maybe she does. And how does he approach that? How does he approach that subject? And what if he's wrong? So that's Hillowfax. That and the torture under Aygrien wasn't the best, wasn't the most pleasant. So yeah, he's going to be clearing his head from that. And that's Hillowfax.
And dems to facts. All right. Who's next?
So, is this therapy, or is this what we did for the 2 weeks?
It's whatever you want it to be, but preferably therapy. I mean, that's the whole idea of therapy. How's your character feeling?
Okay, I mean, everybody else seems to have all this stuff to unpack. I don't think Ellie has that much to unpack. I mean, to be fair, she wasn't there for the big, Finnegan adventure. So, she wasn't like tormented by all of her greatest fears. She just spent like a day with Finnegan, like hanging out and learning some new magic, so that was kind of cool. And then, I mean, yeah, she didn't sleep very much, and she built Rue, and then there was some fights and stuff. But I think she doesn't. I think actually, as a character, she just doesn't dwell on things that much. I think she moves on very quickly, and it's almost like she can, like, compartmentalize it. Maybe it's like the mechanical side of her brain is just sort of like, you know, that's just a function. It's done. That's how that works. Move on, kind of thing. She had the odd moment with Eigner at the end of the last session that didn't really go how she was probably expecting that conversation to go. He suddenly has this like breakdown and then it goes all weird and like stiff and staring off into distance and stuff. So she's kind of not really sure what that's about. But she's worried about him, worried about his state of mind. Yeah, I think she's just kind of just what's the next step mode at the minute.
All right.
Honestly, I'm a bit jealous of Ellie. Leah has a howling darkness at the edge of her consciousness at all times at the moment.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, no, it's, she is desperate not to let it in because she successfully managed to kill her own father, except for it wasn't actually as successful as it should have been. So, she went through all of the agony of doing that without actually any of the benefits. Since Aygrien is still presumably out there somewhere, she is now grappling with the fact that she may have been wrong to think that she would know if Eridu died or not, which means that the next step of that's part of the darkness that she's trying not to let engulf her, is the fact that Eridu could be dead. The combination of those two things have they nearly sent her into a state of shock. I'm going to kind of retcon what happened at the end of last episode a little bit, because I think she would be smart enough to know to fight it instead of give in. But her next thing is just, she is going to be trying to grab for anything that will save her from giving into the darkness. She will have to confront herself at some point, but she's trying very hard to bolster in any way possible. And at this point, that actually means reaching out to her companions instead of holding herself away. She would very much like to protect everyone else from herself, but at this point, reaching out is her best option, and she knows it. So that's where she's at.
Well, all right. To say one quick little thing about Eigner is that, as usual, he's being very Eigner-y. And anyone who spent, more than a little time around him, I mean, probably like Hillowfax has picked this up. Certainly Ellie has kind of picked this up about him. When he gets kind of like mentally inward, like thinking too much about stuff, he just like gets sick of that eventually, and then he turns all that into work. You know what I mean? Like, he's the kind that will just go out and find all these different projects to do to just try and distract him from his thoughts and all that. So that's kind of what direction he's going in after, as Carrie described, the breakdown that he had at the end of last episode. After that, he's just kind of changed his direction to just become a total workhorse. So where we start this episode is at a moment of rest for the characters. And also, where I'd like to start is flashing back to a flashback. It's a double flashback. I want to do some flashbacks throughout this episode, and the flashback that I want to do is not like where we do a roleplay moment, but I'm going to play a short little video, and it's a flashback of a flashback that Asa and I did earlier. So I hope you enjoy. Here is that flashback. Boom.
Eridu lets the game cards lie where they're at and begins to shuffle a different deck that he's just pulled from his robes. Would you like a reading?
A what now?
I've been trained in a few different divination arts. I could tell you a future, a past, a present.
Eigner gives you a strange look as if he's trying to figure out if you're bullshitting him or not. Are you talking about magic? Can you do magic?
Divination is not a magic. It's simply the ability to read between the lines of the universe. Some things help to channel those. Cards are good.
Is this gonna hurt?
It's just a card, Eigner. How much could that hurt?
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let's do this thing. I'm ready to see some shit.
Eridu shuffles the deck one last time, making it a 7. The 7th shuffle. Lays the cards, spreads them wide, draws one, takes a look. Eigner, roll a perception check.
Okay. Yeah, it's like 10.
Alright. Eridu stares at the card a little longer than what might seem necessary. It could be the alcohol. And then gives a knowing smirk and lays it back in the deck. Brings them together, shuffles them one more time, and says, "Alright, let's begin."
Alright. We flashed back to the future, and then we flashed forward to the past? No, the present. We flashed forward to the present after flashing back. Alright, I just confused myself.
We just came back to the future.
So, that moment was quite a while ago in the timeline. Much younger version of Eigner in that flashback. Slightly younger version of Eridu because he is an elf that lives like forever. You know how elves are. But
he's lost a hair since that moment.
For sure. But yeah, very mysterious tarot reading. The question remains, what was the card that Eridu pulled for Eigner? Will we ever know? Who knows? Alright. So, moving on from the flashback back to the future, we start the session in Bronzewood Grove. The characters are coming off of a hopefully pretty good night's rest, and they awaken to find the grove is peaceful, quiet. The weather has been shifting season-wise. I'm going to say that we're well into the springtime. So there's still this kind of gentle rain that's coming through the grove every now and again, but the early morning sun is becoming brighter, warmer. The birds are waking up, and there's quite the contrast between the beauty of nature surrounding the grove, and off into the distance you can see Twin Harbor smoldering, slowly on its way to becoming a ruin. And just the juxtaposition is wild to behold.
Just imagine it. You can't see it, just imagine it. Put it in your head. Love it.
Just love it. So,
Pretty sure Rue found a caterpillar.
Yeah, just like in the intro where he's got the thing, he's got the caterpillar.
Exactly. He's got the caterpillar.
That's exactly it. So your characters find themselves having some time to do some other things. There's about 2 weeks of time that I'm going to be giving your characters to do with what they want to do. So
I take a long rest.
Well,
I
there's
think
gonna
we'll have
be
time for that.
there's gonna be plenty of time for that within the 2 weeks.
All
So
right.
I think the way to handle this is to just like kind of go around really quick at first and just kind of outline like this is generally what my character wants to do. And then once the outline has been established, we'll just kind of hop like, okay, you do your thing, you do your thing. Kind of do it like that. So I'll go ahead and just start with Eigner really quick. Eigner, he's been really wanting to fix up the place. He's been talking about Bronzewood Grove in this kind of way that, you know, he's got this kind of like spirit of industry alive in him right now. He talks often about how when the druids were here earlier and they were building all the digloos and doing all of that kind of stuff, Eigner began to feel the potential of Bronzewood Grove. Like it could be something, it could be so much more than just this place for him to live, you know. This could be an entire community or something. Who knows? So he's gotten bitten by that bug, and he wants to find some way to gather some more materials, maybe gather some more helping hands, to try and make something out of Bronzewood Grove. So he's been talking about that, and he's also been talking to Alan, and Alan, Alan, as the days go on, has been feeling less and less optimistic about his chances of returning to the Cornerstone, because from this vantage point, you can see that Twin Harbor is not doing well, and it's looking more unlikely that it will get better. So Alan has been nervously talking about going to rescue his private stock that he keeps in a very safe place in the Cornerstone. He's afraid that his private stock is being threatened. And Eigner quickly volunteers to go save the booze with Alan. And yeah, so he and Alan have been talking about that, and you get the feeling that they're going to try and do that little mission. They, Eigner is good at being sneaky, kind of. He's more good at helping others be sneaky, but he can make himself be sneaky as well. And Alan obviously knows the way. So that's what they've been talking about.
Somewhere in the midst of Alan kind of feeling like his ability to return home is falling away, this dream of his to own a simple bar where travelers meet up and take on questing adventures, Rue will approach him with a caterpillar crawling on his finger and say, I have found this furry moving twig, and I am not sure if this would be something that could make for a delicious meal. It seems pretty small, but I don't know how much you need to sustain yourself.
Oh, Rue, you delight me. You really do. It's adorable, but no, caterpillars should be best left alone, honestly. There are much better things to eat, truly.
Caterpillar.
You'll get
name.
it.
What do they do?
They crawl?
This one appears to be attempting to chew on my finger with its tiny little mandibles.
Yes, Rue. Yes. Delightful, aren't they?
A wonderful thing called caterpillar.
So they
then
keep.
I'm gonna
keep
shove
on
a bunch of
having that
leaves
cute.
into my mouth and chew them.
And Alan just smiles, nods, and encourages you the whole time. Positive guy that he is.
He is my closest friend.
So, Drew, since you stepped away for a moment, what we're doing is I talked about the whole 2 week window for the characters to do the things, and we're going to go around the circle really quick, and everyone just briefly outline what they kind of want to do with their characters, and then we'll go more in depth with it.
So to give you guys a heads up on what I'm going to be doing, that's just going to be Rue showing up in your scenes here and there and doing something kind of adorable. Since he really doesn't have any actual thing to be doing for the next 2 weeks.
Just keep being cute, Rue.
That's the plan.
Keep on doing it. Alright, so I talked about what Eigner is going to do. Rue jumped in with being all cute. What else do people have planned?
I have one thing that I want to mention now, and then something else I want to mention later, maybe. But one thing that I wanted to change a little bit was just before the last long rest, just after we got back from the terrible things that we did, that some of us did. The terrible things. Anyway, when Leah left the room because she was in shock, I actually want her to come back in afterwards, and come back in fairly shortly after instead, because she's realized that being in shock is not actually it's not a good idea to just go curl up under a potato plant and cry when you're like literally shaking. So instead she's going to go back to the fire and also remember that Hillowfax is currently unconscious because he is in shock. And so she's spending the next hour or so basically trying to help him warm up and in the process warm herself up. So she like takes one of Eigner's furs and puts it in front of the fire and has Rue help her put Hillowfax there and make some tea and just kind of sit there. And then when there's literally nothing else she can do for Hillowfax, then she'll do just trance for an hour or so, and hope that he doesn't wake up, because once she's done, she's going to just quietly leave and never speak of it. However, that's her plan. That could change.
Very well could change.
I think Hillowfax would certainly take the opportunity to speak to Leah, wanting to not have this be a hanging thing. But again, Hillowfax doesn't want it to be a dangling thing. But yes, when she brings over the blankets, Hillowfax will nod politely. Oh, visited anyone's dreams lately?
No.
I did have a remarkable vision. You were there. And there was Eigner.
Oh, that.
There I do. Yes. That?
That was me. I'm gonna make you some tea.
Yes, please do.
I have already made the tea.
I don't trust Rue's tea.
I
have followed Alan's strict instructions.
I will take
Rue? Is it?
Oh, yes. I don't know if you have met Rue. Ellie made it.
We rescued you. You are the library on a large mound of earth. It is wonderful to meet you.
I believe it is likewise. Perhaps you haven't quite made the tea to the way I like brew it. Come, I'll teach you how an Azamar takes his tea.
Ah, any opportunity for education.
Yeah, you do that.
So Hillowfax will go over to the pot with brew, and just we'll leave that Leah situation right there.
Cool.
Totally fair.
Since she definitely did not want to have that conversation. The other thing that she does want to do after she sits there for a minute, gathers herself, and then blinks. Well, other than just trying to warm up by the fire, because her body literally is in shock and she's trying to fix that. But once she's calm again and has had her rest, she's going to talk to the ISCB agent again, and that means that she's going to have to do dominate person one more time.
Slippery slope.
Not great. It's not great. So she'll like take him outside basically to be away from other people. And then I guess I probably should roll.
Sure. I mean, did you want to like abstract the conversation or do role play the conversation?
Oh. Yeah, so I guess I can just abstract it and you can just assume that it works or it doesn't. Like she will keep trying until she can do it, and then if she runs out of options, then she'll take another rest and do it again.
For sure.
She will first want to know his name.
Oh, okay.
She definitely should have asked that a long time ago, and she feels good about that.
Okay.
She will also tell him that it's not safe for her to keep doing this. But she wanted to ask him what he needed while we try to get this figured out. Has he been able to sleep? Does he need someone to drug him so that he's actually able to get rest? Is the guest gonna mess him up that way? And also, she will tell him that if anyone needs to talk to him again, and in particular do this spell, she's going to ask their other wizard to do it. And she's feeling very awkward about that. And she does tell this person that the wizard does not, he does the enchantments with impunity, and he will not respect your autonomy in the same way, but he is safer to talk to because there is no chance of his power getting out of control. She just wants to warn this person about that, but she is planning on not speaking to him again herself if she can help it.
Interesting. Okay, so for dominate person, it's me that has to make a saving throw. That's how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
Oof, he failed. So he gets dominated. So you can talk to him safely, right? And so the first thing he says, he kind of has a, the way he's been doing it, he's just been like babbling incessantly, saying like, "You have to let me go, please, please. I have a family. I have children. I have 5 children. They're defenseless. I need to go help them. Please, please." In a very non-convincing tone of voice, but it's like he's just kind of going through the motions, and he kind of quiets down enough to hear what you're saying. You hit him with the magic, and then there's this kind of sigh as that whole thing is temporarily suspended. His own will is suspended, and there's a kind of relief that comes from that. And he answers your questions very dutifully. He says, first, "My name is Trey." And then the second thing, I'm sorry, I kind of didn't catch all of the second thing you were saying. It was in relation to the geese. Like, is he...
Yeah, well, she wants to know if it has been letting him sleep or if she needs to try to find someone who can drug him so he's actually able to get...
Oh, that's it. You can see from his eyes, they're like rimmed with red, and his pupils are just like bloodshot. Not pupils, the rest of his eyes, just bloodshot. He looks like he's been getting some rest, but not much. Maybe he's only been able to like reach this state of half sleep. And he also tells, yes, drugs would help very much. Yeah, they would. He does not look well.
And then of course the other thing that she tells her is that she doesn't want to do this.
For sure.
And there is now a wizard who can if needed.
To that, he just says, do what you gotta do. I am more or less a captor at the moment. I will either be under your control, his control, or under the control of the ISCB.
I am going to try to figure out how to break the ISCB's control of you and let you go free. Or whatever needs to be done. If I'm able to find that out, will you will you willingly come with me to do whatever the next steps are to save you and your people? I would like to hear it from you that you are willing without having to make you do anything.
He gets this kind of like thoughtful look on his face, as if he's trying to parse out exactly like what it means to have him tell you something willingly while he's under the effect that you've put him under. He gets his
you to tell me your real feelings.
Yeah. He gets this very complicated look on his face, and he says, I would do anything to get rid of this compulsion, this power that the ISCB has. If you really want to know what I think it's immoral.
So do I. I'm very sorry that I have to do this in the meantime.
I am under your command.
Well, I'm going to release it now, but I am going to try and find out the next step for you.
Please, let me go, please! And he continues his compulsive pleading to have you take off his bonds. So maybe we can pause the Leah situation for a moment, and what has Ellie got planned for the next 2 weeks?
Okay, well, her intentions are to begin work on this production line of Warforged. So, like, putting together all of the stuff that is needed. Basically, like, leading classes, teaching lectures, that kind of thing. That's mostly a plan, and then I guess, like, looking after Eigner, I guess, kind of, just like her general state of how she is, reasserting her place in the household, and taking up her old, habits. But yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is she's getting back in that bed, so.
She's not in the doghouse anymore, is what you're saying.
No. She's had her sleeping on the floor, so. But yeah, that's very much her plan.
Okay, all right. So Emily, in particular, keeps kind of bugging you, to the point where it's like, you give her one little tidbit of information, and then before you know it, she's back to ask you another thing and says, well, but what are we going to do about this? And don't you think it would be more efficient to structure everything in this kind of way? The two of you actually get to the point where you're kind of butting heads a little bit, but you get the sense that it's still all in the interest of the greater good and just trying to get the job done. The biggest challenge is finding the best space for it, because there's not a lot of, there's no like workshop at the moment. There's Eigner's house, and then there's a bunch of these digloos, half of which have been destroyed by the storm. So maybe there's different parts of the production happening at different sites. Maybe there's like some little thing that's set up in the woods over here. There's some things set up in this little trio of digloos over here. Part of Eigner's house has been co-opted for this other part of the production process. But the Trail Guard, by this point, have been rallied and gathered into Bronzewood Grove. There's not a whole ton of them, we're talking maybe 10 to like a dozen or so of the Trail Guard, mostly under Emily's command. And they start learning from you. They start listening to the lectures, and things start off pretty rough. Maybe there are some little mechanical fires that have to be put out by various people. But yeah, things are really starting to take off a little bit. All right, let me go ahead and look at my notes at the moment. All right, I think it's about time that Eigner, after much deliberation and talking to Alan, says, "All right, Alan, are you ready to do this? I just cleared off a spot, cleared out my whole pantry. We can save your private stock. We can do this." And Alan takes a deep breath. "All right, Eigner. You lead the way." And then he kind of bites his lip a little bit and says, I could, if you wanted me to, if that would be easier for you, perhaps. Whatever you want. And then Eigner just grunts and grumbles and regards the rest of you and says, "All right, we'll be back. Don't wait up. Everything's going to be just fine."
I call after him, "I'll keep you outside of the bed warm."
And Eigner just blushes. You can see the shade of red on his cheeks from all the way over there. He
And Rue
blushes.
says, "And I will cool down your side of the bed when it gets too warm."
You are all so helpful. So helpful. All right.
He hasn't quite got how this whole sleeping thing works, and he tends to just sit in the corner of the room and stare at Eigner and Ellie when they sleep until he, kind of shuts down for 6 hours. But it's very much he needs to sleep in the same room as Ellie because he doesn't know how to sleep alone.
Aww. He is just like a little kiddo.
So cute.
It's
Aw.
true.
I
He
can
does tend
imagine
to
him,
cry.
He climbs in between Ellie and Eigner. I'm scared.
I also kind of imagine the scene from Elf where he's just like, "Ellie, I love you. Ellie, Ellie, I made a snowman."
Of course, Eigner's going to grumble at some point. "This is so much worse than having a dog. Ugh. Ugh."
I got a full 20 minutes of sleep, and I built that rocking horse.
All right. So, I think we're ready to go a little more into detail. Eigner, by this point, has already left with Alan, but he says they'll be right back. Don't worry. Don't even worry. It's all good. It's all good. So, who wants to go more into detail with what they're working on?
Hillowfax, over the course of the 2 weeks after Eigner and Alan going off trying to liberate booze, he's going to be, given that the trail guard are going back and forth, he's going to start sending letters, writing to old colleagues, seeing if there's any news that he can get, basically trying to establish and maintain a messenger network. See if he can keep in touch with colleagues, see if all the towns and things that they've been through are doing okay. See what forces might be moving through without directly liaising with, like spies and things. Just trying to keep an ear to the ground, see if we can keep up to date with things. Before Emily's remained safe. On top of that, he's also going to be asking questions in these letters, seeing if anyone knows anything about Aygrien's regeneration thing. If anyone has any idea how we can block these sorts of things, any kind of magic items or spells or anything that I can do further research into to try and stop that sort of thing. And as a player, I'm not anticipating anything back on this episode, let alone this session, but just putting those out there. He's going to spend a lot of time writing notes, but he's going to stay in the social area, so we're going to stay in Eigner's place until nighttime, and commandeeredly sleeping. He's going to stay there and just sort of dole out the occasional bit of sage advice as and when he can. Probably in Rue's direction a lot of the time, while we're gathering caterpillars. In fact, one of the things Hillowfax will do is explain the chrysalis phase.
Ooh. That's something that Rue would be very fascinated with.
Especially the fact that they turn to goo, they liquefy entirely, and then reconstitute, and still have memories of their former selves. It's amazing.
That's wacky.
Rue is gonna be staring at Hillowfax with his big robotic eyes. He'll say, I am a lot like a chrysalis. My outside is hard. Maybe inside I am liquefied.
Perhaps. You do have a certain bearing about you that seems familiar. As much as we mourn the loss of Eridu, it does seem that your appearance has been somewhat of a transformation of a kind for the spot that he's left. Perhaps you represent in some metaphorical way, and in no actual spiritual link whatsoever, a chrysalis form of Eridu, or at least the part he plays in our party.
So I am Eridu's chrysalis. When he comes out of me, will he have wings?
Undoubtedly.
What a disturbing image. A very disturbing image right there. But very sweet moment. Very sweet moment.
And Rue will pat Hillowfax on the shoulder and say, You seem to have all of the knowledge. Library on the mound of dirt. There's got to be a quicker way to say your name. I shall just call you Library.
Thank you. And how did you come about? I see that you're here. You have a familiarity about you.
Well, I was sleeping, I guess. Or so I can best approximate. And then I woke up, and there was Ellie's face. And she told me that she made me.
Oh, she certainly has developed her talents somewhat.
Yes,
And,
I have studied my form, and I seem to be in multiple different parts, as though not everything is uniform and asymmetrical, as many of you attempt to be. I think that I am a conglomeration of many parts. Perhaps I am the chrysalis for more than just this Eridu.
Well, you are a remarkable being, regardless.
Thank you.
Now, Rue, while I show you a different tea recipe, perhaps you can go into more detail about this project that Emily has Ellie doing. It's quite fascinating, and I'd like to superimpose in some way. It seems very exciting, secretive. It seems like something I'd want to be involved in.
Oh, of course. Ellie has told me many things about this project. Although I don't think she meant to. She was sleeping sometimes. She talks in her sleep. So does Eigner. They have secrets, you know. But anyway,
Hmm.
Or not Hillowfax. Gosh, I can't remember what character I'm playing. Rue will go into this very convoluted explanation that he's pieced together from both the bits that Ellie's actually told him and some of the things she's mumbled in her sleep. Some of it may not make any sense, whether it be because of talking in your sleep isn't totally coherent, or Rue isn't. He's filtering this information from a very limited perspective.
As Hillowfax is getting a clearer image on what's actually going on and how he can't actually be useful in that situation, he's just gonna seem a little disappointed. He's feeling a bit like just a pen pal, and seem a bit. Rude. Have you ever tried gardening?
Ooh. I found all the rocks that Eigner planted in his garden, and I have moved them over in a much more efficient way. At first, I went from tallest to shortest, and then from shortest to tallest, and now I've found a very effective way of arranging them from short, tall, tall, short, 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 tall, short, 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 tall, short, tall. And I've found the most pleasing pattern. You should see.
So, on that note, I want to put a pause onto that Hillowfax moment with Hillowfax's face completely like slack-jawed and his eyes glazing over as Rue just talks his ears off. And we are going to blur and switch over to Ellie randomly. So this is some kind of morning while Eigner and Alan are still in the city. Just random morning. Let's I don't know. Where is Ellie at the moment? What is she doing at the current moment?
Getting ready to go to the workshop, or if it's a little bit later on, well, to where people are working on things, to check up on them. So
she's just doing her like morning routine essentially. Yeah. Okay, so right in the middle of your morning routine, maybe you're, it's this kind of situation where other people are kind of finding their own spaces around Bronzewood Grove, so you are, like, somehow just alone in Eigner's house. You just, like, kind of, while he's out, you've just been enjoying the bed, just, like, stretching out, loving up on the whole bed. Rue is around, but also Rue is off doing other things as well. So you're doing your whole morning routine, making use of Eigner's simple kitchen and fire and all that. All of a sudden, there's a kind of just wibble wobble in the air, a kind of weird arcane sense just overwhelms you, and there's a big old sound, and then a rip in space-time happens, and out steps none other than your buddy old pal, Finnegan Odwick. And he's just saying, Ellie! 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 Ellie!
What? Yeah? What?
What? Wait, no, what? Wait, you're the wrong Ellie. Wait, or are you, wait, or are you the right Ellie? Can never tell. Honestly, there's just so goddamn many of you. But, okay, no, looking at your face, he reacts and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to offend you. No, you're the right Ellie. Believe me, you're the correct one." Well, what the hell are you doing? Did you just wake up? Come on, it's like midday already.
I mean, Is it midday? Oh.
No, it's like 8. It's like 8 in the morning, you know.
Okay.
But for him, it's like midday because he's old, you know.
I mean, it's not midday. It's like 8 o'clock. You maybe should like keep track of that when you're jumping around all these places. Maybe you should get like, you know, something that tells time. I don't know. Just an idea.
Yeah. We're in Eigner's house, right? Where's his fucking whiskey?
I'll just point. Drop my head and point over to one of the cupboards.
You'll go grab one of the bottles, and he notices that it's like just getting to the bottom, and he's just like, amateur, and just chugs the rest of the bottle. Ellie, it's very important. I come here for a very important reason. You know, I just like couldn't figure this thing out, and you know, I thought I'd find an Ellie. I mean, no, find you, Ellie, the one that is you. I thought I'd find you and see if you could like help me out with this thing. And he reaches into his bag of holding that he's got at his hip, and he brings out this very elaborate looking object that is a cube, and it's just about yay big, you know, perfectly proportioned cube sitting on his hand, and it is made of metal. This kind of it's got this like matte finish to it where it's really not reflecting light in the way that you would expect metal to, and it's intricately carved. It's just made of like circles on top of circles intersecting with other circles. It's a cube that's just made of metal circles, like in this impossibly complex pattern. And he says, "Yeah, it's a puzzle. It's a real puzzler. It stumped me for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe I've just been a little too fucked up recently, and I need to, I don't know, go on a spiritual retreat to cleanse my mind and body and soul, or whatever shit that people are doing these days. But yeah, I just couldn't figure it out, and I don't know. Thought you'd have fun with it."
Yeah, you can't see, but I immediately started doing the grabby I want hands. I like go up very close and start looking at it. Is it? I mean, you're touching it, but is it safe to touch? Is it gonna like blow up in my hands or something?
I mean, no. 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 Come on, just hold it. Come on.
It's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Like grab it out of his hand.
It's not particularly like, what am I trying to say? It's not a very energizing thing, you know. It's not like feeling cold to the touch or very warm to the touch or whatever. It's just this dead weight in your hand, a lot heavier than it looks. Not so much that you're straining, but you know, you wouldn't expect that much weight out of this little thing. It seems to be made of some incredibly dense material.
Why did you get it?
Honestly, I can't even remember. I just kind of found it floating around in my pack, and tried to get a reading off of it. And he opens his bag of holding a little bit, and you can see within it, it's got this weird light coming out of it, and it's like you're just looking into an abyss with all of this like random items just like floating in an ether. He's like, "Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, you could just get lost in there for weeks. Believe me, I've done it before." So yeah, I was just kind of wandering around there, and I found it, and I tried to analyze it, and I couldn't really get a reading off of it. I have no idea where I got it, honestly.
Huh. Okay. And what do I get if I work it out?
Whatever's in it. You know, finders keepers. If you can open it, if you can open it, you can keep whatever is in it. You know.
Deal.
All right. And at this point, he takes another swig out of the bottle, even though there's nothing in there. He's literally just trying to get the last drop out of the bottle. And he goes over to Eigner's window and opens the curtain and looks out and sees like the trail guard milling around. Everyone is kind of heading to their stations, and some people are like carting around like a warforged arm, or they've got some tools. And then, of course, Rue is around just stacking rocks, doing something. Maybe he's making a little rock tower or something. And Finnegan just grunts and he goes, what are you losers doing over here?
1001011.
I am building a warforged army.
Oh, really? You better be careful with that. I've seen some timelines where that kind of shit doesn't really go well. Not to like give any spoilers or whatever, but yeah, I'm sure you'll do fine.
Cool. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, what is this?
I know my programming.
What is this, amateur hour though? I mean, you don't even have a workshop. Are those seriously just like little dirt hovels? You're gonna try to do this in dirt hovels? What's wrong with you?
Excuse me, but time does not seem to run in a line. It seems to go in this wibbly wobbly. Do you have a board that we can take chalk and we can write on that board, and I can explain to you how time works? It's best worked when you write this name out with it. It explains time in the best way possible.
Jeremy Bearimy.
Exactly. That is a very good name. It fits the timeline really well.
As Rue comes over and he starts talking to Finnegan and Ellie, Finnegan just reaches over with one hand and he's got this kind of like really just tight, that like kind of hangover face that you get where you're like, no one talk too loud. He's got that kind of face, and he reaches his hand over and finds this weird like space in Rue's torso where like the metal plate is going up against like whatever else that Rue is made of, and he just reaches one hand in and then twists this switch that is inside of Rue, and then all of a sudden Rue's voice just goes silent. So he's like keeps gesturing and he keeps like looking like he's trying to talk, but he just like the voice is just completely disconnected. And then Finnegan says, you really picked an annoying voice for that one. Gods damn it.
I didn't really pick the voice. It kind of came with the voice. Have you ever built a Warforged before? When was the last time you built a robot?
Look, it was a long time ago when I was in my young and crazy years. It was like back in the day when I thought that was going to make me cool, make me get the chicks. Then I realized it was just a big old waste of time. Oh, yeah. No, I don't have to
You're
explain
wandering around on your own a lot, right?
Yeah, look, I don't have to explain anything to you. All I know is that if you're trying to do this and you don't even have a goddamn workshop, then, girl, you really got your work cut out for you. And that's when he grumpily, like, kicks the door open, and he goes outside, and he walks about, like, 25 paces over in this one direction where Eigner's house is up on top of this hill, and in one direction, like, the, it doesn't curve down or up anymore. It's, like, got this nice little clearing that's a good wide space. And he pulls out his spell book, flips to the certain page, and starts grumbling some magic words using his hand movements, making some somatic components happen, and there's a rumbling of the earth, and out of the ground, it's like he's building out of the materials that are in the ground. It's like kind of similar to what Leovan was doing to make the Digloos, but that was a much more kind of primitive, like literally just shaping the earth. With this, he seems to be like transmuting the material of the earth and the grass and everything. He's transmuting it in real time to create a structure. And essentially, builds a moderately well-sized workshop out of the ground right next to Eigner's house. And he turns back to Ellie and says, "All right, don't say I didn't do nothing for you. Uncle Finnegan always coming in, saving the day."
Yeah, thanks. I mean, Agnes not gonna be happy, but
Fuck him. He didn't leave me any whiskey this time. That makes Uncle Finnegan really angry.
Alright, yeah. Thanks. That's insane. But
Alright. Ellie, let me know when you solve that box, okay? When you solve that puzzle. Let me know, okay?
How? Wait,
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Cool. What? Just before you go.
Yeah.
And then she says, like, very quietly, kind of like moving in close to him, like, just how many times does the Warforged plan fail?
He looks up and kind of has this look like he's making some calculations in his head. He's like, carry the two, blah blah blah, and he says, "I mean, you got good enough odds, really, when you look at it. Yeah." And then there's a squeaking kind of sound, and he opens his bag of holding, and then Niplug, his little goblin familiar, who I don't think we've talked about too much, but he's got a little goblin familiar named Niplug, and Niplug pokes his head out, and he's like, "No, don't!" It looks like he's trying to say something to counter what Finnegan was saying, and then Finnegan goes, "Niplug, you little shit!" Puts him back into the bag of holding, squeezes it tight, and says, "Yeah, just let me know. You'll figure it out. I'm easy enough to get in touch with. Old Uncle Finnegan, all right. Bada bang, bada boom." And then uses a teleportation spell to exit as abruptly as he entered.
Okay.
All right, so wait. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, it's okay. It's fine.
All right. Hillowfax, you remember at this time, this is like after the whole crazy Finnegan episode just happened, and you walk by and see like, oh, there's a new workshop here. So all of a sudden, and something about that jogs your memory about how Eigner had asked you specifically because Eigner was really worried about how there might be the possibility of ISCB agents or other bad actors invading Bronzewood Grove again. So he asked you specifically to find some way to set some magical traps around the perimeter of the grove.
I will do that. He has been working on a couple of new spells that how to apply those to trap form. Yeah, he's gonna mess about with because he's recently learned a cool spell called Force Cage. That combined with his Force Wall thing that he made the hamster ball out of. I think he's going to try and concentrate on spells that would detain intruders. Because it's trying to be processed. So he's going to spend a bit of time trying to see how to go about doing that and what would be the best series of triggers. Because if he's going to set up a trap like this, he needs to know who should be exempt from it, or should we have an exempt area to go through, a passageway that we could tell someone. Because if we all go out on a mission and find some allies along the way that are about to get wiped out, we want those allies to be able to get in without us. We'll be like, oh, there's a secret base with some cool stuff in it, and this is how you get in. Yeah, Hillowfax is going to think of contingencies and things, and maybe to the point of like over redundancies, or to the point of inaction. Yes, Hillowfax is going to run through the whole magical chapter. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think Hillowfax is going to get to the point towards the end of those 2 weeks between writing the letters and occupying his time with Rue. He is going to have a look around, see what will be the best spots for the magical traps, and he's going to stop just before setting the magical traps, and want to, by the end of those 2 weeks, like have sat down with people and discuss, like, okay, how are we wanting these traps to work? Like, are we able to do these sorts of effects? Do we want a clear path through Bronzewood Grove to avoid the traps, or do we want triggers? That sort of thing. So, involve the group. He'll go it solo for 2 weeks and then decide, you know what, let's get it in with the family.
All right. Everyone will figure it out together.
Why am I not commanding the English language?
That's all right. So, Leah, as time has gone on, it has started to wear on you even more and more. There's that lingering question of the ISCB agent. He's just been pleading. Frankly, it's getting kind of annoying, as well as even more ethically dubious. And, yeah, that's what's going on with you.
Yes, I actually think that first she's going to, she's, obviously she's trying to figure out the answer to this problem. But one of the first things she's going to do is basically steal herself and go talk to Hillowfax. And that'll happen probably like the day after, so right toward the beginning of those 2 weeks, that she will, wherever Hillowfax is at the time, she will approach him and say, I have a question for you about magic, specifically magic. Question about magic.
By all means, I have studied for most of my life, and I consider myself to be well versed in much of its working. What can I do to help?
The ISCB agent that I've been talking to, he is under some kind of a compulsion that if he does not follow the orders of the ISCB, magical knives will stab him and presumably kill him. And apparently all of the ICB is under this compulsion, but I don't know very much about it. I very much want to break it. And I seem to recall you having mentioned this kind of spell yourself, that in fact you've done it before. And I need to know how to break it.
Oh. Well, it's not something I've had to try and break before. It's a useful tool. Oh, I could certainly consult my notes in my spell book. Are you certain that you want to break it?
Am I certain that I want to break it?
Well, he is an ISCB agent, under compulsion or not. Surely he would be working against our interests.
the spell that he's under is working against our interests. That's what the ISCB has done to him.
True. Well, let's go and consult my book now. Immediately pull out my spellbook, start flipping through pages. I'd say almost ignorant of the fact that this is a person that we're talking about, rather than just a thing that's going on. Yes, here we are. Yes. There are some ancient rituals from some southern tribes that have been known to break this sort of curse. They're very expensive herbs and spices. Yes, we could try and find some sort of divine inclination. The different forms of magic seem to express themselves in many ways. We need to somehow break it like a curse. So some powerful church leader or someone with divine powers. Someone who could break a curse. Ooh, like those godly folk that we found in a temple thick or in Nickens and
Oh. Thank you for that information.
Is something the matter?
Oh, many things. Many things.
I could certainly continue my research into it. This is just what I have in my book. There may be other things. As I said, these southern tribes have rituals they can conduct, but they verge on the pricey side, as well as us needing to travel there for the knowledge that is lost to our lands.
I don't think that sounds...
Seems to be a lot of trouble for...
I don't think that sounds... Right. I think it's worth the trouble, but it might not be feasible.
You certainly seem to have become attached to this person.
I owe him.
Might I ask, what is it that we're hoping to... You owe him?
Yes. I don't expect you to understand. I walk a very dangerous line with my powers. If I use them on someone deliberately, there is a chance that I corrupt them forever. I have used my powers on him at least 3 times now. If I don't use those powers to fix this somehow, then I will have done all of this for no reason, for evil.
It strikes me as odd to consider the act devoid of intention evil. Your intentions were not evil. Actions can't be good or evil, sure.
The intentions don't matter if the results are evil.
I must say, I've not considered it from that point of view before. Often I find that the results, the ends of our actions, don't really matter all that much so long as our intentions are pure. If you intend to cause harm, then usually harm follows. If you intend to do well, then usually wellness follows. If you were to intend harm and good were to happen, that would only be good. If you were to intend good and harm was to happen, well, then it's not exactly. You wouldn't be responsible for it, would you?
Yes, you would be responsible. Yes. That's how unintended consequences work. The only thing you can do at that point is try to learn from them and ensure it never happens again.
So that doesn't quite make sense to me. Consider if we were in a position where we were poor, destitute, unable to gather resources that are required to survive. What would be more important in that instance? The law of the land or our survival? Our actions might be to steal a loaf of bread to survive, but our intentions are purely survival, a base need that most can support. So if our intentions can be supported by the general populace, but our actions not, should we be punished by the full extent of the law, possibly even executed?
No, I don't believe that. But if, you were poor and you stole a loaf of bread from someone, but that was the one thing they needed to be able to survive and they died, then again, that is your intention has caused something terrible to happen.
That I can see too. I've never considered this before. I think I need to spend some time to think about this. Excuse me, Leon. I have some missives to write.
So,
I have problems to solve.
Oh.
No, go on.
It's true. You do have problems to solve. It is true. So, after leaving that situation, excuse me, Leah goes off outside, perhaps just wandering in the direction of where Eigner's house is on top of the hill. Emily is out there. She's got her pair of, binoculars or a spyglass or something like that. She's keeping watch, scanning the horizon, keeping an eye on things. And then all of a sudden she starts a little bit and she says, Eigner's coming back. And he's brought company. And sure enough, coming out of the tree line at the base of the hill and trudging up the hill, you see Eigner leading the way. He's got his bag of holding across his back. He's got a bottle of private stock rum or something in his other hand, and he's taking long swigs out of it as he huffs and puffs his way up the hill. Alan is by his side, looking a little rough around the edges, but still in good enough shape. He's in one piece. He's a little dirty. He's kind of covered in dirt. Definitely needs a shower, that dude. And then on either side of them that you guys can see, you've got Leovan, our very favorite old, anciently, decrepitly old elf person, Leovan. And then right next to Leovan is an equally old-looking elven woman which strikes Leah right in the chest. A sense of sudden realization comes over Leah, and she recognizes this old elf lady immediately. And behind them is a whole group of, I'm going to say, about 8 of the druids of the Undercircle, some of them being named characters that we've had in the past before, and others being fresh faces, but they all look rather haggard, like they haven't been having the best accommodations. They all look equally dirty, like literally just like covered in patches of dirt. And they start trudging up the hill. And as they do, Leah looks down and locks eyes with Senna, who is locking eyes back to her. And on that mysterious note, I think it is about time to take our break. Thank you for joining us, everyone. It's been really interesting starting this episode with y'all. And if you want to see more, join us in about 15 minutes and we'll continue. We'll be right back. Thank you very much.